We are approaching the one-year mark since the October 7th Hamas terror attack on Israel, and the fallout ever since has rocked Jewish and Muslim communities here in South Florida. Now, the volatile situation in the Middle East has escalated to frightening new levels in recent days. Iran launched hundreds of missiles at Tel Aviv in retaliation for Israel killing the leader of Hezbollah in Lebanon. The news rattled South Florida's large Jewish community, which is in the midst of observing Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. Synagogues are ramping up security as a result. We sat down with Rabbi Yisroel Spalter of Chabad of Weston, and two things we wish to point out. We taped this interview before the start of Rosh Hashanah, so he could be here, and our guest from the Palestinian American Bar Association was unable to join us at the very last minute. How much are you troubled by what you're seeing here in recent days in the Middle East?
It's obviously very troubling what happened today, what's going on as we speak. But I have to say that the last couple of weeks, Israel has shown strength and did what it had to do in eliminating and making a big step forward in eliminating part of the problem that exists over there. And they knew that this was probably going to happen, and they'll deal with it.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu seems to have ignored U.S. calls to tamp things down and work for a ceasefire. You think that most of Jewish people here in South Florida support Netanyahu's position?
I haven't spoken to most of the Jews here in Florida, but he has massive support. When you do the right thing, you get support. He has no choice but to put an end to this problem once and for all. We've been through this so many years now, decades. And they keep kicking the can down the road, and there's no point in doing that, because when you do that, it just escalates over and over, and more casualties fall on both sides, by the way. So I commend Mr. Netanyahu for doing what he has to and putting Israel's security at the forefront.
What about the Israeli hostages?
The Israeli hostages have to be rescued by hopefully the IDF. And that's a process, and hopefully it happens very soon. But when you put the pressure, I think it'll happen quicker than if you don't.
So how do you find common ground over there in the Middle East?
That's a good question. Common ground. The first thing you have to do is you have to get rid of the people that are not looking for common ground, because they're the leadership right now, and you'll never find common ground with them. So what Israel has to do first is you have to get rid of the evil and eradicate it. If there is a reasonable partner on the other side, sure, they'll talk to them and they can live in coexistence.
There's a belief by some that this stance by Israel won't bring peace, but instead it will perpetuate future generations of Hamas and Hezbollah terrorists.
Look, Israel has been trying to negotiate with the Arabs in the area for the longest time. I don't accept that reasoning, because whatever they've done, it just perpetuated. They've never succeeded in turning the tide by the Arabs in the region. So I think it's time for Israel to put one thing in front of them, and that is the security of its citizens, and that really should be the only thing. If they can have peace with a future generation and future leadership, great. We would welcome that, obviously, but I don't see that in the foreseeable future.
How has the Jewish community here in South Florida and in the United States and elsewhere processed what's been going on in the Middle East?
I think it has. October 7th and the aftermath of October 7th has been an unbelievable wake-up call to Jews around the world. Not that they were in a slumber, but they engage them much more, and they identify much more and more stronger with Israel and their own Jewishness. And from that perspective and that standpoint, there was a silver lining there. It brought the Jewish people together. And I've never seen a Jewish community here in South Florida as I see it in the last few months, the last year.
What do you say to Palestinian Americans who say the innocent people in Gaza have not deserved what has been rained down upon them?
The innocent people in Gaza has not deserved what has been rained upon them, but there's only one place to put the blame, that is Hamas. That's their leadership. They've launched this attack on October 7th. Israel really has no choice. Any country would defend themselves, and they have to defend themselves. There's no question about that. And if there's collateral damage, which there is in every war, I don't know of a war in the history of human mankind where there was no collateral damage. I think Israel is doing an incredible job in minimizing the collateral damage in proportion. And they need to send a message to their own leadership, not the Jewish leadership.
We invited someone from the Palestinian American Association here to join us today. Couldn't make it at the last minute. But to Palestinians who would be watching this interview, what would you say to them?
I would say that my heart goes out to innocent Palestinians and Arabs that are killed in the conflict. I feel terrible, but not guilty. That's the truth. I feel very sorry about it, but I don't feel guilty, and nor should any Israeli. This is forced upon us, and Israel has no choice. And I would say to them is that for the benefit of the Arabs in the region, it'd be much better if they got rid of Hamas themselves and brought in a new leadership that they can really care for their citizens, for their people. Your leadership has not cared for you and not done you good at all.
Rabbi, thank you for your time today.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much.